Hi, I'm Tiana Shoei. I'm a writer, entrepreneur, leader, and energy. This is my podcast, Ain't Quite Right. Join me as we laugh, learn, and live big. Hello, everyone. This is Tiana Shoei, and welcome to my podcast, Tiana Shoei Ain't Quite Right. Thank you for tuning in today to episode 11. That is Spanish for episode 11. And as fate would have it, and I don't actually believe it's fate, but I do think it is just part of being on a journey of learning. I had this topic picked out months in advance, and the book that I'm currently reading really talks a lot about this. So it has allowed me to add a lot of additional great content to today's podcast. So today what we're going to talk about is what's going on in your head. So as usual, we begin and end with a quote, and today's quote comes from none other than the famous Henry Ford. And if you don't know his story, it's really quite fascinating. He was really an amazing person that brought a tremendous amount of creative and innovative thinking into our industry. Not only is it part of his story well documented in Napoleon Hill's Think and Grow Rich, but you'll also find tidbits of it throughout different influencers who are inspired by his story, because it is really an inspirational story. But today's quote from Henry Ford is, whether you think you can or you think you can't, you're right. So let me say that again without stuttering. I apologize. Whether you think you can or whether you think you can't, you're right. Your mindset is literally the beginning and end to anything you want to achieve in life. So whatever mindset you go into a particular situation with is likely to become the outcome, because your brain is extraordinarily powerful in a myriad of different ways. And that's the entire book, Think and Grow Rich, is truly just addressing the power of your mind over a situation. Now, it's not, I'm not sitting here saying like, you've got the force with you. You can use your brain and create brain waves and make things happen. But what I am saying is the way that you think programs your reticular activation system. And I've talked about this in other podcasts, so just a quick recap. Your reticular activation system is your filter, your brain's filter. And you program your reticular activation system. Most of the time, and most of us, our programming is subconscious. We are not consciously telling our brain, these are the things I want you to focus on. But the more that you learn how to focus your reticular activation system, the more that your life becomes an expression of your design rather than just a response to your circumstances. And how many people do you know are walking around just responding to what's happening to them rather than crafting their life? In other words, choosing and choosing from moment by moment, day by day, what they're going to allow into their life and how they're going to respond to it. And a lot of that has to do with your reticular activation system. So learning how to program your brain to think through and filter different things is the key to really unlocking your potential. Again, whether you think you can or you think you can't, you're right. So we're going to talk about that mindset. Mindset is so huge. There's so many great books out there. My favorite all-time number one mindset book is Carol Dweck's book, Dr. Carol Dweck, and her book is Mindset. That's what it's called, Mindset. That book for me unlocked all kinds of great information about how we are often stuck in a fixed mindset versus a growth mindset. That's not the purpose of today's podcast, so I'm not going to go into that. But I just want to reiterate with you that this is not just, I have to say this, I feel like I almost have to justify this, because what I have found when it comes to self-help type topics, which is a lot of what I'm talking about, and I'm just going to kind of throw this in there. Dave Hollis also echoed this when he was going on his journey, is a lot of people feel like, I don't need self-help. Self-help is for people who, those people, whatever those people are to you. I got my stuff together. But here's what I want to challenge you on. If you think you have already arrived, you've already been left behind. In other words, what I'm trying to say to you is growth is a journey. It is not a destination. And so the reason that self-help, I will never outgrow self-help topics, is because I'm never going to stop growing. And that should be your mindset as well. You should never think of yourself as having already arrived on any topic, because things change, the world changes, and we learn new information about things all the time. And so to think that you already have mastered a subject, or to think you've already arrived in a particular topic, is to be ignorant to the fact that things change on a constant constant basis. And it's also to miss out on the exciting journey that learning is. So with that, let's jump into this topic of what's going on in your head. This is episode 11, and the purpose of this topic is what's going on in your head. So first question I'm going to ask you, and I want you to think about this, and I want you to answer yourself honestly, because this is an important question. What do you think about yourself? Now, I know this sounds weird, but what do you think about yourself? Do you like yourself? Do you, when you're alone and it's just you hanging out with you, do you like your own company? What do you think about your mental capacity, capability? Do you think you're smart? Do you think you're just average? Do you think you're below average? What do you think about your ability to learn? Do you believe into the misnomer and the old wives' tale and in a saying that I hate tremendously? You can't teach an old dog new tricks. Speaking of canines, that may be true, but of human beings, that is absolutely not true. What do you think about your body? Do you like your body? Do you not like it? Is it just okay? Do you even think about these things? Now, for a lot of you, as I ask these questions, this may be the first time you've ever stopped to consciously think about these things. What do you think about your performance at work? What do you think about how you are as a friend? What do you think about who you are as a spouse if you're married? What do you think about who you are as a partner if you are just dating or, just starting in a new relationship? What do you think about who you are as a family member? So that may be dad, that may be mom, that may be aunt, that may be sister, that may be cousin, daughter, son. What do you think about yourself in all of these different roles? It's so important to ask yourself these questions, because whether you think about it consciously or not, your brain has an internal dialogue that's going on telling you how to respond to each of these situations based on what you think about yourself. And what I've come to realize, the more that I work with people and the more that I get to know people and the more that I even get to know myself, as my personal self-awareness increases, as I become more emotionally intelligent. And I've talked about the 4 EI competencies of emotional intelligence in the past: self-awareness, self-management, social awareness, and social management or relationship management. You have to learn to ask yourself questions to truly understand how you navigate these different things in your life. And the first question you have to ask yourself is, what do you think about yourself? Because going back to the quote, whether you think you can or you think you can't, you're right. So if your internal dialogue is, I'm not smart, I'm not capable of doing this, I don't like this, this is something I'm just going to pause on that for just a second, because this is something I have to check in with all the time. I'm really honest with myself and my internal dialogue when I don't like something. Okay, so I'm just going to give you, this is going to sound so stupid, but I'm going to give you just a prime example. I hate doing my hair and putting makeup on. I know that sounds so oh my gosh, first world problem, but I do. I hate the time it takes, and I just don't care. It's just not something that has ever been a thing for me. And so every time I stand in front of the mirror and I do my hair and I do my makeup, which primarily I do for my husband's benefit, because I don't look at myself, so I don't really care what I look like. But he deserves to have a wife that doesn't look like she just woke up when he walks in the door after being gone all day working hard. But every time I sat in front of the mirror and I was, I hate this, I hate this, I hate this, I made that task, which takes all of 10 minutes. It's not like the end of the world, and it's not like it's physically difficult. I made that task miserable for myself. So when I changed my internal dialogue and stopped repeating, I hate this, I hate this, I hate this, and I said, you know what, I'm going to find a way to do, maybe get better at doing my hair, maybe get better at doing my makeup. And so I started watching YouTube videos, and I went to a department store and asked them to teach me how to do my makeup. I'm not even kidding. These things are real. And I went to the hairdresser and I was like, I need something done with my hair because I'm not creative enough. When I took it on as a challenge, rather than just continuing the dialogue of I hate this, I hate this, I hate this, then my entire mindset changed about it. And now those 10 minutes that I spend in front of the mirror getting ready, I don't hate anymore. But the first thing I had to do was I had to become aware of my internal dialogue. So that's kind of shallow. That's superficial. I realize that. But I want to start there and then kind of go a little bit deeper, because we're going to get into some areas of our life that we don't really like to think about or talk about very often. And this was the case for me. So this is me inviting you on my journey, not standing here preaching at you from a place I haven't been. What do you think about yourself? Let's start there. What do you think about yourself? Do you like yourself? That's the first question. You know, what's interesting is I did not realize until I asked myself that question, for most of my life, I didn't like myself. And I'll tell you why. I focused more on my failures. I focused more on my flaws than I focused on my strengths, because I was so insecure, because I was so worried about being judged. I was so worried about what other people thought about me, that I disliked myself. And what I was doing was actually kind of preempting if other people didn't like me by disliking myself first. Then I didn't feel as bad if somebody didn't like me. That is such an unhealthy way to think, because here's the truth, okay? And I want to pause for a second. If you are one of these people, when I ask, do you like yourself, and you say no, you probably have different reasons for why you don't like yourself. Maybe it's, again, some character flaws of yours that you don't particularly like. Maybe it's like me, when I really got to the root cause, you're afraid of being rejected or what other people may think about you. But what I had to realize first and foremost is, my flaws were not fixed. This is going back to Carol Dweck's book, Mindset. My flaws are just areas that I had to grow. There's nothing about my personality or my being that's fixed. There's nothing about your personality or your being that is fixed. You are capable of growing in any area of your life. So that's the first thing you have to embrace. You can grow into anybody you want to become. This is all we're doing, is identifying your real self, who you are today, versus your ideal self, who you want to be. And you start working on reconciling those two. So then what I had to realize is, I can't make people like me. You can't make people like you. I mean, just like, think about somebody that you just don't like. And sure, they probably do things that if they stop doing them, you might like them a little bit more. I mean, I'm sure there's like that coworker or, that person that you have to interact with, arbitrarily. Maybe it's a server at a restaurant that you go to that you're like, ugh, I just don't like you, right? But most of the time, it's not really anything that the person does. It's just that who they are just doesn't jive with you. The same is true just for like foods you like and don't like. Like, I just don't like bell peppers because I just don't like bell peppers. I eat them because my body needs the nutrients, but I just don't like them. There's nothing a bell pepper can do to change its being to make me like it more. Just like with most people that I just don't like, it's not them, it's me. The same is true for you. You can't make people like you. So living in a state of life where you have a negative dialogue going on in your mind about yourself because you're trying to preempt the rejection of other people, or you're, worried about what other people think about you, is to worry about something you have no control over. You can't control whether people like you. What you can control is who you are. So what you have to do is you have to like yourself first. You have to decide who you want to be, and then like yourself. So let me ask you this, what don't you like about yourself? Make a list of those things. And then ask yourself what you have to change, how you have to grow, what you have to do to change the things about yourself you don't like. You're not a fixed product. You're not a done deal. I posted a quote earlier this week on social media. It's only too late if you never start. So it's only too late to become the person you want to be if you never start working towards that goal. So become aware of your internal dialogue. If you don't like yourself, you are feeding yourself negative messages all day long, and I can guarantee you that most of them are not true. You might say, I'm lazy, okay? I don't like myself because I'm lazy. Now, this is something that I've dealt with. This is going to sound absurd from somebody who has run over 70 ultramarathons. I've run the 100-mile distance 5 times. I regularly exercise. I own a bike shop. I mountain bike every week, and I road bike on the week. I feel lazy sometimes, and I'll tell you why. I struggle to wake up in the morning. I love to get up, and I love to have a really productive morning. But the 10 minutes from when my alarm starts to go off, because I have a light alarm, so it starts to wake me up gradually. It's not a noise. It has noise at the very end, some birds tweet, but primarily it wakes you up by introducing light. In that time when the light starts coming on, I start waking up. I struggle to get out of bed. And because I value my mornings so much, I beat myself up a lot of the times when I don't get out of bed as quickly as I'd like to. And I say, oh, you're so lazy. Why can't you just get up out of bed? You know the mantra, Tiana, discipline equals freedom. And then I realized, and I learned later, that I have sleep apnea. So the reason I struggle to get out of bed so much is because I'm tired in the morning because I haven't really slept well. I might have gone to bed early. I do that. I go to bed early and I'm really particular about not having blue light, and I follow all the rules about going to bed, no caffeine, no sugar, all the rules that it takes to get a good night's rest. And I still wasn't sleeping well. And it was because it was something outside of my control until I went and got medical help for it. I didn't even realize this was what I was dealing with. So I was internally beating myself up. I was not being compassionate. I was not being kind to myself about something I had no control over. And once I changed my dialogue and I started having a little bit of compassion for myself, and I started saying, you know what? It's not that you're lazy. It's that you just don't feel good. And you don't have to succumb to that, but you can have a little more compassion on yourself and then gradually work on, okay, now let's get out of bed. It's okay if you don't wake up with a bunch of energy. That change in my internal dialogue led me to go down the road to figuring out what's wrong. Instead of beating myself up, I actually wanted to solve the problem. And that's when I discovered I had sleep apnea. So the problem with allowing a negative loop to go in your mind is that you live in this place of this lie that's repeating in your brain rather than solving the actual problem. So I'm not saying this from any place other than a place of experience where I'm having to go through this and eradicate these negative thoughts and these untrue things I think about myself. So continuing down, what untrue things are you telling yourself about yourself? Let's talk about intelligence. Okay, this is something that really, for a long time in my life, I struggled with because I do not have a college education. Now, you have to understand, in the insurance industry where I have spent 20 years of my career, not having a college education is one of the biggest red X's you can have in the industry. I've literally had HR managers who were like, this is the most money you're ever going to make because you don't have a college education. And I left that job and went on to create competitors for that company. And it was really funny because I still remember one of my colleagues who was going to bat for me. And he said to our boss, like, if you let her go, she's going to go teach the rest of the industry what we do. And she's going to create massive competition. And that's exactly what I did because they thought, oh, no, she has no college degree. She can't go any further. So, I had this big, we'll call it, for lack of a better word, scarlet letter over me in my professional career, where I believed that my value and that my worth was significantly decreased because I did not have a college education. But what I didn't understand, and what I have had to learn over the years, is that the only form of education does not come in the form of college. And this is a different topic for a different day, but I'm going to go down there one day. And I am on a mission to help wake people up to realize that college is great if you have a particular career or particular topic that you want to study. It's very important. If you want to be a doctor, if you want to be a nurse, or if you want to be a lawyer, you definitely need to go to college. You should go to college. But it is not essential for the vast majority of the work that we do in this country. And I could go down a list of entrepreneurs who are not college graduates who have gone on to change the world because they were not college graduates, because they had to think and they learned to think in a different way than college teaches you to think. Again, it's not a bad thing. It's just different. But I had to learn to realize that my intelligence, my ability to add value to an organization was not tied back to a college education. It was directly tied to what I chose to learn and who I chose to become as a person. So behind me, the diploma hanging on the wall is what's called a CPCU, and that is an advanced designation in insurance. And less than 2% of insurance professionals have a CPCU because it's an extraordinarily difficult designation to get. And I self-studied for 10 what are considered to be master's degree level courses to get that certification. I didn't have a college degree going into that. I'm one of the few CPCUs that does not have a college degree that precedes the CPCU. In other words, my lack of a college education did not reflect on my ability to learn at all. It did not reflect on my ability to contribute to my organization. It did not reflect on my ability to be an outstanding professional. What does contribute to my ability to become a valuable member of an organization or to become a valuable member of an industry is who I chose to be and what I chose to learn on a regular, ongoing basis. And so I had to stop believing that I was less than or incapable of in order to then go on and move forward. Because let me tell you what, I want to just ask you this for really quickly. Who is more valuable in an organization? Somebody who once upon a time studied and went to college and got a degree and then has not learned a new thing since? Or somebody who continues to learn on a regular basis and has advancing, developing, growing, and maturing knowledge? I think we all know the answer to that. It doesn't mean that ideally you have both, right? But the real point that I'm making here is it's not about what you did, it's about what you're doing. It's not about who you were, it's about who you are and who you are becoming. But the way that you become who you want to be and you develop who you are is to become aware of what you're telling yourself about yourself. Your intelligence is not fixed. There is no such thing as good memory or bad memory. There's only trained memory or untrained memory. The more that you can remember, the more that you learn and the more valuable that you are. You just have to learn how to train your brain. So going back to my point, what do you think about your intelligence? Do you lie to yourself and tell yourself your intelligence is fixed? Do you lie to yourself and tell yourself that you believe you've learned as much as you can possibly learn? Do you lie to yourself and tell yourself that learning is hard and that you can't learn anything new? Because none of those things are true. As I've grown and as I'm on this journey to learn everything I can that is of value to me, I've learned that there's a way to learn. And the book that has been most influential in my life in this is the book Limitless by Jim Kwik. And that's Jim, Kwik. And the book is Limitless. If you want to learn how to learn, read his book. It will revolutionize your life. I've literally learned all kinds of amazing ways to learn. And I'm already a speed reader. I didn't realize until I read this book that I read about 350 words a minute. And my reading comprehension is extraordinarily high. And this is just because of practice, because of things I do. And I lived most of my life believing that I was unintelligent, stupid, and incapable. And every single one of those things were untrue about myself. The same is true for you. You most likely limit yourself because you believe untrue things about you and your potential and your capability. Let's talk about relationships. What do you think about yourself as a relationship? Do you think about yourself as a poor partner or a poor friend or not a great colleague? Because if you continue to think those things about yourself, you will be all of those things. What you think, you train your brain to manifest in your life. What you think, you train your brain to manifest in your life. Said another way, what you aim at is what you see. So if you think to yourself, I'm a poor partner, or I'm a poor, manager of my finances, or I'm a poor driver, whatever it is, I'm just throwing random things out there, then those things about you are going to be true because that's what you're training your brain to think about yourself. So I talk, in my coaching career, one of the number one things that I talk about with my clients that I coach with are relationships, because people are one of the biggest challenges we have to deal with. Now, you can only control one half of the relationship, and that's you. And so we talk about how do you have to develop, how do you have to grow as a person to be the better partner in your relationship. And relationships, by the way, are not just romantic relationships. This is maybe familial, maybe friendship, it may be work, whatever the relationship, that we're talking about here. How do you have to grow? Because you can't control the other person or the other people involved in the equation, but you can control yourself. But if you're lying to yourself about who you are and who you're capable of becoming as a person, then you're never going to achieve your full potential. So I know I've talked about a lot of different things. I went down a lot of different rabbit holes, but what I'm trying to do is I'm trying to bring awareness to your internal dialogue, because everybody has one. We think about ourselves, but we rarely conscientiously think these thoughts are nestled deep in our subconscious. And until you become aware of what you're thinking about yourself, or what you're thinking about a circumstance or a situation, whether you can or you can't, whether you like it or don't like it, whether you want to or don't want to, whatever you're thinking about and however you think about a situation will manifest itself. Another way that this is really powerfully seen is in the medical world. The reason that placebos work sometimes is because the mind is that powerful. I watched, for example, my grandfather who, was dying of a disease called amyloidosis. I watched him fight years beyond what the medical world told him he was going to, for one reason and one reason alone, because his mindset was that he was not giving up. And he fought years beyond what the doctor said he was going to survive because of his mindset. If you think of yourself as a healthy person, if you say, even if you're not today, if you say, I am going to be a healthy person, nothing is going to stop me. Because by the way, without your health, nothing in life matters. And I'm not to be morbid, but look at Steve Jobs. I mean, what a wonderful man, but what a tragic ending to a wonderful life. And it's not his fault he got sick, but my point being, control what you can with your health, because once it's gone, it's too late. You have nothing else matters. All the wealth in the world, all the fame in the world, all the innovation in the world is meaningless if you don't have your health. So if you think to yourself, I'm an unhealthy person and I'm going to be an unhealthy person, guess what? You're going to be an unhealthy person. But if you say to yourself, my health matters to me and I am capable of changing it and I'm capable of being a healthy person, guess what? You are already halfway down the road of becoming a healthy person. Because until your mind is there, your body's not going to catch up. So this is true for every aspect of your life. So I want to pause for just a minute and I want to ask you, what areas in your life do you want to grow, but you are limiting yourself because of what you're thinking about yourself, because of your mindset? I like it. Jim Quick says in his book, Limitless, the book that I just mentioned, if you fight for your limitations, you get to keep them. If you fight for your limitations, you get to keep them. I fought for many of my limitations for most of my life. I did. And then one day I started to realize and I started to pay attention and I started to refocus my reticular activation system and I started to refocus the way I was thinking and I started to become aware of my internal dialogue and I started changing it. And then like magic, but it's not magic, it's just basic neuroscience and psychology, the world around me began to change, but nothing changed other than who I was and how I thought of myself. So to close today's podcast, I want to ask you to become aware of the areas in your life and the internal self-dialogue that you have. And you know, one of the things I love about Jim Quick, again, that I've learned from him in this book is simple, small steps, small, simple steps, SSS, small, simple steps. Every change, you know, I'm coming to you guys several years into this journey, but every change takes time and it's a small, simple process. I was thinking about my journey of becoming a runner. I think I ran my first 5K in 2006. I was like literally couch to 5K. And then I ran my first ultramarathon in 2013. There was an extended period of time, you know, between. It was a process. And the same is true for your personal growth, becoming a healthy person, growing your learning ability and reading more and whatever else it is in whatever areas you want to grow, that it's going to take time. And I love the saying, the best time to plant a tree was 10 years ago. So in other words, don't wait to start right now. You know, it takes time for these things. So don't wait. So a small, simple step is pick one area in your life where, you know, as I asked you some of these questions, what do you think about yourself? What do you think about yourself in relationships? Do you like yourself? Whichever one of these areas resonated the most with you, let that be your focus for right now. And start to pay attention to the things you say to yourself in your mind. And what I did as a form of therapy is I wrote down every one of those lies that I believed about myself. That making a mistake made me a failure. That, you know, I was stupid and incapable of learning. That people didn't like me because of whatever character flaws I had. Whatever it was, I just started writing them down on one side of a piece of paper. And then I wrote right next to it the truth, which is I can learn anything I put my mind to. The human brain is a muscle. The more you learn, the more in tune it becomes. You will not reach the capacity of your brain, of your mental ability. In other words, the more you learn, the more you read, the more you exercise your brain, the more powerful it becomes. You're not going to run out of brain capacity. Whatever it is, I want you to combat that message that you're lying to yourself about with the truth. I'm an unhealthy person and I can't be healthy. I don't like exercising. I can start with a walk and it's fine. Like you don't have to go from couch to 5K. You can go from couch to walking 10 minutes a day. Whatever that is, write the truth down next to it and then fold the piece of paper in half so you don't look at the lies anymore. and you would just look at the truth. And I kept that on my desk next to me, and I would look down at that list. And anytime I felt myself going back to one of my negative messages, I would reprogram it. Your brain is like a computer, you program it. And I started changing those messages to the truth. And I started believing I can learn anything. I started believing that I didn't need other people to like me to feel good about myself. I had to like myself. And if other people like me, great. I hope they do. I want to be as impactful and influential, and I want as many people to go on this journey with me as possible. But I'm not going to be everybody's cup of tea. Get that. I'm okay with that. If you just don't like me, it's okay. That's fine. And that's okay. I don't need other people to make me feel good about myself anymore like I used to. And, I learned how to become a healthy person. I learned how to have, a fitness routine. I learned how to put healthy food in my body. I learned how to give my body, the rest. Write down the truth next to the lies that you're telling yourself. And you're going to find by becoming aware of the thoughts in your head that you can change your life unbelievably. You can change your life in such large quantities by simply changing what you're telling yourself about things. What are you telling yourself? What negative, untrue things do you repeat over and over again? And most of us are not aware of them. I was not aware of most of these things until I sat down and did this exercise. So just to kind of recap, whether you think you can or you think you can't, you're right. The internal dialogue going on in your mind is impacting your life more than you probably realize. And I would invite you to join me on this journey of becoming aware of the limiting beliefs that you have, the lies, the internal dialogue that are holding you back from your potential, holding you back from truly thriving as a person. And I would invite you to begin to eradicate those with the truth, because you are not the sum of the lies you tell yourself. You are who you choose to be. You are as great as you want to become. You are as intelligent as you want to become. You are as learned as you want to become. You are as healthy as you want to become. And I would invite you to find that. Life is a journey, not a destination. So let's climb this mountain. We're never going to get to the top, but that's okay. We're going to enjoy every peak and valley on the way, because the higher you get, the better the view gets. And so join me. Let's go. Let's go do hard things. But the fun thing is everything that I get in here and I share with you guys has actually produced freedom in my life. And so while it may be difficult making some of these changes, the result is always worth the cost. So whether you think you can or you can't, you're right. Henry Ford. Thank you so much for tuning into today, episode 11, What's Going On in Your Head? If you like this content, please be sure to share it with friends and family. Word of mouth is the best way to share what you like and don't like. I don't know about you, but I rarely find things that I Google. I usually get it because somebody recommends it to me. So please let other people know if you enjoy this content. Like and subscribe. Every review makes a big difference. Subscribing makes a big difference. And again, episodes are released on the 2nd and 4th Monday of every month. I'm also dropping some Blitz podcasts in there. Until next time, this is Tiana Shoei. Ain't quite right. Thank you for tuning in. For additional content, including my blog and social media, see my website, tianashoei.com. I would greatly appreciate it if you could subscribe, leave a review, and be sure to tell your friends and family, anyone else that you think might enjoy joining us on this journey. Until next time.